Achilles' armor. Achilles didn't just have muscles, he had a god-made suit. When his old gear broke, the blacksmith god Hephaestus forged him new armor. The shield, a masterpiece. It showed the sun, the stars, cities at war, and farmers plowing fields. Basically, the entire universe stamped onto bronze. The armor itself glowed, strong enough to make spears bounce off. With it, Achilles turned into a one-man wrecking crew during the Trojan War. But the story didn't end with him. After his death, the armor became the prize everyone wanted. Odysseus and Ajax fought for it, not with swords, but with speeches. The Greeks voted, Odysseus won, and Ajax, humiliated, took his own life. So this armor wasn't just protection, it was reputation. Whoever wore it wasn't just another soldier. They were marked by the gods, shining on the battlefield like destiny itself. Aegis. The Aegis wasn't your average shield. This was Zeus's personal flex, a shield so terrifying it made thunder look like background noise. Sometimes it was a breastplate, sometimes a cloak, but always packed with divine fear factor. The kicker? It carried the head of Medusa. Imagine showing up to battle basically wearing a portable jump scare. Zeus often wielded it, but Athena made it iconic. In paintings, she's the one striding into war with snakes curling from her shield. The Aegis wasn't just defense, it was intimidation theater. Soldiers didn't just see armor, they saw a god telling them they'd already lost. This wasn't protection, it was branding. The Aegis screamed, "Power belongs to me, and I can prove it with one horrifying accessory." Karna's Kavacha and Kundala. Karna, the tragic hero of the Mahabharata, wasn't born like the rest of us. He came with built-in armor and earrings. The Kavacha and Kundala, gifts from the sun god Surya. As long as he wore them, Karna was untouchable. No arrow, no blade, nothing could break through. But destiny had other plans. Indra, king of the gods and father of Karna's rival Arjuna, wanted those defenses gone. He disguised himself as a poor beggar and asked for them. Karna, cursed with generosity, couldn't say no. He stripped off armor fused to his body, handed over the earrings, and bled as he did it. Brutal. That moment sealed his fate. Without his divine protection, Karna was mortal again, and Arjuna would eventually kill him. The Kavacha and Kundala weren't just armor. They were the cruel proof that in myth, even strength can be undone by virtue. Indra's Kavacha. Here's the twist. After tricking Karna out of his gear, Indra felt a tiny pang of guilt. To balance things out, he gave a divine breastplate to Arjuna instead. This was Indra's Kavacha, basically a heavenly hand-me-down. It wasn't fused to his skin like Karna's, but it still made Arjuna ridiculously durable. Combined with his unmatched archery skills, it meant he could shrug off attacks that would crush any normal warrior. If Karna's armor made him invincible, Arjuna's gift made him practically unfair. But here's the irony. Karna's downfall directly fueled Arjuna's rise. The armor swap turned generosity into a weapon. In the end, Indra's Kavacha wasn't just protection. It was the gods openly taking sides in the most brutal sibling rivalry ever told. Nemean lion's hide. Heracles didn't just kill monsters, he turned them into outfits. His very first labor was the Nemean lion, a beast with skin so tough that swords and arrows were basically toothpicks against it. So, how did Heracles win? He strangled it with his bare hands, but the real flex came after. He skinned the lion using its own claws, since nothing else could cut that hide, and wore it as a cloak. The open jaws sat like a helmet on his head. From that day on, Heracles wasn't just a strong man, he was a walking horror show for enemies. The hide made him immune to weapons, but it also made him instantly recognizable in art and myth. Heracles without the lion skin? That's like Batman without the cape. Fafnir's gold coat. In Norse and Germanic legend, Siegfried pulled off the ultimate loot drop. He killed the dragon Fafnir and ended up with two legendary upgrades, Dragon's Blood and Dragon Scale armor. After bathing in the blood, his skin turned nearly invincible. Add the scales, and he became the medieval version of a tank. But here's the cruel twist. A single linden leaf landed on his back while he was bathing, leaving one small spot unprotected. Later, Hagen, his so-called ally, stabbed him right there. One leaf, that's all it took. Some versions say he wore Fafnir's golden coat, which shone like treasure itself, making him look terrifying and majestic at once. But no matter the version, the theme is the same: absolute power, with a tiny, tragic flaw. Sigurd wasn't just armored, he was practically dragon-proof, except for that unlucky square inch of skin. Babari Bayan. Over in Persia's Shahnameh, Rostam, the ultimate Persian hero, fought in Babari Bayan, a suit of armor as legendary as the man himself. The name means Tiger of Bayan, and it lived up to it. Forged with magic, sometimes said to be from dragon skin, the armor made Rostam untouchable. It's described as shining like fire and ice, blinding enemies before the fight even started. It was said to resist fire, water, steel, you name it. Basically, if Rostam put it on, he was unstoppable. And he wore it everywhere, slaying demons, rescuing kings, crushing rival warriors. The armor wasn't just gear, it was part of his legend. In Persian culture, Babari Bayan became a symbol of divine strength and national pride. pride. Without it, Rostam might have just been another strongman. With it, he was myth incarnate. This was armor not just for battle, but for storytelling itself. Sun Wukong's golden chainmail. The Monkey King never showed up half-dressed. Alongside his famous staff, he scored a suit of golden chainmail from the Dragon King's treasure vault. This wasn't just flashy. It was fireproof, blade-proof, and demon-proof. Basically, invincibility with sparkle. Every time Sun Wukong flipped into battle, the armor lit up like stage lights. With his feather cap and cloud-walking boots, he looked less like a pilgrim and more like a rock star on tour. The armor wasn't just protection, it was personality, bright, unbreakable, and impossible to ignore. The chainmail made sure the Monkey King wasn't just winning fights, he was stealing every scene. Orvar-Oddr's silken mailcoat. In Norse legend, Orvar-Oddr wore armor made of silk. Sounds like pajamas, but this wasn't bedtime gear. Saga writers swore it could block swords and arrows better than iron. Lightweight, flexible, and strangely high fashion for a Viking. Oddr wore it through decades of battles. Axes bounced off, spears couldn't pierce it, and he kept surviving long after his rivals were gone. But the saga ends with a twist. His curse catches up, and he dies from a snakebite. No armor for that. The silken mail couldn't cheat fate, but it left a wild image, a warrior wrapped in fabric that worked like steel. Beowulf's mail shirt. When Beowulf dove into the lake to fight Grendel's mother, his best ally wasn't strength. It was chainmail. Her claws slashed, her knife stabbed, and the mail shirt held firm. That armor turned a death trap into survival. The poem calls it hand-forged, blessed, and nearly indestructible. No glowing jewels, no divine backstory, just solid craftsmanship doing its job. Later, Beowulf faces a dragon in old age, and this time, the armor gives out. Fire melts through and the hero falls. Still, the mail shirt stands out. It wasn't flashy like dragon scales or lion hides, but it carried one of the oldest monster hunters in literature straight into legend. Samurai spirit armor. Samurai didn't just wear armor, they wore legends. Their yoroi was said to be blessed with spirits and charms, making arrows bounce off like bad ideas. Some warriors even claimed ancestral ghosts guarded them from the shadows. But these suits weren't just about protection. They were flexes, horned helmets, demon-faced masks, silk cords and clan colors. Enemies weren't just facing steel, they were staring at walking nightmares with style. One tale says, Tyra clan armor shimmered so brightly, warriors looked like divine beings in battle. Whether true or not, the message stuck. Samurai armor wasn't just gear. It was prestige, intimidation, and maybe a little bit of supernatural insurance. The green armor. The Green Knight's armor was less about iron and more about mystery. Shining emerald plates, unearthly glow, it turned him into the embodiment of nature itself. You could swing a sword at him, but good luck killing a metaphor. When Sir Gawain chopped off his head, the Green Knight casually picked it up and rode away, armor gleaming like nothing happened. That wasn't protection, that was a statement. Green meant rebirth, cycles, the fact that death was just round one. It never got as famous as Excalibur, but the green armor remains unforgettable. It wasn't about blocking attacks, it was about messing with your brain. Fighting it was like battling a riddle wrapped in plate mail. Tarnkappe. Sometimes the best armor isn't armor, it's a cloak. In Germanic legend, the tarnkappe made its wearer invisible, basically medieval stealth mode. Siegfried used it in the Nibelungenlied to sneak around, win fights, and even cheat in contests. In some versions, the cloak didn't just hide him, it gave him super strength too. That's not fashion, that's a power-up. But invisibility has a price. The cloak made Siegfried unstoppable, but also fueled the grudges that led to his betrayal. Tarnkappe wasn't shiny or intimidating. It was something scarier. The power to cheat fate while nobody saw you coming. Aegis Helm of Awe. This wasn't a helmet you strapped on. The Helm of Awe was basically a magical logo, drawn across your forehead or armor. Vikings believed it made them impossible to defeat and terrifying to face. Think of it as a cheat code scrawled in runes. The dragon Fafnir wore it, claiming the symbol boosted his invincibility, until Sigurd showed up with a sword and proved otherwise. But the real power wasn't in metal or scales, it was in psychology. Enemies who thought you were unstoppable often fought like they'd already lost. So the Helm of Awe wasn't about blocking arrows. It was about hacking fear itself. Not armor made of steel, but armor made of intimidation. And sometimes that's harder to pierce than iron. Gilgamesh's war gear. Gilgamesh wasn't content with normal bronze. The epic says his armor shone like the sun, God-forged, radiant, and practically alive. exactly what you'd expect from a king who was two-thirds divine. Some stories suggest the gods themselves gifted him this gear, making him almost untouchable, and he needed it. This is the guy who picked fights with giants, monsters, and even gods. When Gilgamesh and his partner in chaos Enkidu marched into the cedar forest to battle Humbaba, his armor wasn't just protection. It was a glowing stamp of approval from the heavens. For Gilgamesh, the war gear wasn't about survival, it was about presence. He didn't just walk into battle armored, he walked in wearing the god's own endorsement deal, Norse dwarven forged armor. Whenever Norse heroes needed something unbreakable, they didn't head to the blacksmith down the street, they called the dwarves. These underground craftsmen made gear so strong it felt unfair. Mail that never rusted, helmets that never cracked, shields that shrugged off blows. It was their specialty, and it wasn't just craftsmanship. Their forges ran on magic as much as metal. But nothing from dwarves came free. Their creations often carried curses or impossible strings attached. You got armor that could save kingdoms, but you might also doom your family 3 generations down the line. That was the trade-off, power at a price. Dwarven armor wasn't just protection, it was destiny you could wear on your shoulders, literally. Heroic mail/coats in Slavic and Persian folklore. In Slavic and Persian folklore, armor was never just protection. It was basically a VIP badge for heroes. Russian epics describe knights like Dobrynya Nikitich in shimmering mail that looked light as silk, but held up like steel. Persian tales went even bigger. Some coats were said to be forged from meteoric iron. Imagine strapping on a literal chunk of outer space before battle. Talk about cosmic insurance. These suits weren't only about safety, they marked status. When a hero put one on, the story shifted. No longer a guy with a sword, but someone backed by fate itself. Mail wasn't just armor, it was narrative armor. If you wore it, you weren't just surviving the fight. You were meant to win it. Dragonborn armor. Even video games recycle this old playbook. In Skyrim, the Dragonborn's armor screams, "You've leveled up." Whether it's the horned iron helmet everyone recognizes or the late-game Dragonbone plate, every piece says the same thing. Chosen one unlocked. The Dragonbone armor especially hits the mythic note. You kill the monster, strip its bones, and wear them as proof. That's straight out of Heracles with the Nemean lion or Sigurd with Fafnir's golden hide. In other words, ancient folklore, now in 1080p graphics. And here's the trick. The armor isn't just stats. It changes how you see your character. Suddenly, you're not some guy sneaking around caves for cheese wheels. You're the Dragon Slayer. The story literally hangs off your shoulders. Skyrim didn't invent this. It just plugged in the controller. The myth never really died. It respawned. Power armor, Fallout series. The wasteland is brutal. Radiation, raiders, mutant dogs. It's not exactly jeans and a hoodie weather. That's why Fallout gives us power armor. Picture a tank, but wearable. Pre-war tech built to make soldiers basically unstoppable. Step inside and suddenly you've got super strength. Bullets bounce, radiation feels like a warm breeze, and a minigun becomes your new sidearm. No wonder the Brotherhood of Steel guards these suits like family heirlooms. But the real magic? The armor changes how people see you. Raiders scatter, settlers stare. It's not just survival gear, it's a throne on legs. In a world where most people have rusty pistols and rags, power armor screams, "Yeah, I win." Daedric armor, the Elder Scrolls series. If armor had a most likely to haunt your nightmares award, Daedric wins. Forged from ebony and literal Daedra hearts, this thing looks like the devil's cosplay collection. Spikes, horns, glowing red cracks. It doesn't just protect you, it announces you like a horror movie soundtrack. In Skyrim, it's top-tier defense, nearly indestructible, heavy as guilt, and harder to craft than Grandma's secret pie recipe. You need insane smithing skills, rare materials, maybe even help from a Daedric prince. Translation: you don't just find it, you earn it the hard way. And when you finally walk into town wearing it, the vibe shifts. Guards mutter, villagers avoid eye contact, even dragons probably reconsider. The message is clear. This hero didn't just grind quests. They embraced the dark side. Daedric armor isn't clothing, it's character development in metal form. So yeah, legendary armor isn't just about not getting stabbed, it's about stepping into a myth, whether it's bronze forged by gods or pixels coded by game devs. Every suit tells the world you're more than ordinary, even if it's just cosplay at Comic-Con. If you enjoyed this, stick around for the next one. And hey, subscribing wouldn't hurt.